Welcome, and thank you for choosing to unwind with us on this soothing journey through history. Imagine yourself transported back in time to an era where the rhythm of daily life was governed by nature's harshest demands. It is a world full of challenges, where survival was a struggle, and comfort was a luxury few could afford. But as you settle in, relax, and allow the gentle flow of this story to guide you, you will see that even in such grueling conditions, there was a quiet, persistent beauty in the way these people lived. Tonight, we will visit the heart of a Viking village, stepping into a life where survival and daily tasks required more than just effort, they required resilience. As we move through this historical landscape, let the images of this world settle into your mind. Imagine the smells, the sounds, the texture of the earth beneath your feet, and the constant pull of the seasons as they shape every moment. It's a life vastly different from the comfort of modern existence. And yet, in the simplicity and struggle, there's something timeless. A story of humanity's ability to adapt, to endure, and to find meaning in the most trying of circumstances. Let's begin our journey. Daily life immersion. A Viking village at dawn. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a Viking village. The sun barely peeking over the horizon, casting soft amber light across the scattered homes. These homes' longhouses are simple structures, constructed from timber and thatched roofs. The air is cool and crisp, filled with the scent of fresh morning dew and wood smoke that rises lazily from the hearths within the homes. The ground beneath your feet is soft, damp from the night's moisture, and you can feel the earth's chill creeping through your boots. Each step you take on the uneven path is a reminder of the relentless natural forces that surround you. As you walk, you pass by animals, cattle, goats, and chickens, quietly grazing in small enclosures. Their low murmurs blend with the morning stillness. In the distance, the sound of hammers striking wood can be heard as men work on building or repairing the longhouses. Their movements are steady, rhythmic expression of the determination that defines their every action. Each task in this village is vital, and every movement is purposeful. There is no room for idle time. The Vikings are, above all, practical. You watch a young woman, her hands weathered from years of hard labor, as she tends the fires in the hearths. She moves gracefully, but with an underlying strength, stirring the embers to ensure that the fire burns throughout the day. Her face is lined with the subtle marks of age lines of laughter, of grief, of survival. Her clothes, though simple, are made with care. Stitched together from the skins of animals and wool from the sheep that roam the village's outskirts. The scent of boiling porridge mixes with the smokiness of the fire, a humble breakfast for a village that knows nothing of convenience. You can feel the steady pulse of their lives, measured not by the clock, but by the rise and fall of the sun, the changing of the seasons, and the work that never ceases. The life of the Viking is a constant struggle, but it is also a rhythm, one that has sustained them for centuries. Now, you walk past the homes and toward the edge of the village, where the land opens up to the wilds beyond. The trees stand tall and dense, casting long shadows in the early light. There is a deep quiet in the woods, broken only by the occasional call of a bird or the rustling of leaves in the cool morning breeze. You can feel the weight of the forest surrounding you, as if the land itself watches over the village. Here you see a group of women preparing to go out to gather herbs, wild vegetables, and other plants for the day. They walk with purpose, carrying woven baskets strapped to their backs. The earth beneath their feet is soft but resilient, as if it knows the constant work it must endure to sustain life. The village is small, but every corner is bustling with activity. There is always something to be done, something to maintain. Whether it's repairing a boat, tending to the crops, or forging tools, life is an ongoing dance with the elements. The people here know nothing of leisure. They know only work, and the sense of satisfaction that comes from a task completed. But beneath this relentless grind, there is a quiet camaraderie, a sense of belonging. The village is a community, and each person plays their part, contributing to the greater good. Even in the most challenging of times, the bond they share is their strength. Now let's turn our focus to a key figure in Viking society, a warrior. Imagine the figure of a man, strong and silent, his face weathered by time and hardship. His name is Ragnar, and he is a warrior of great renown. As you look upon him, his life seems etched into every line of his face. Every scar that marks his body, and every movement he makes. Ragnar is not a king or a nobleman, but a man of the people. His strength, courage, and leadership earned him his place among the warriors of his village. He stands tall, his broad shoulders squared against the harsh northern winds. His long braided hair is a testament to his status, decorated with beads and simple ornaments, each one symbolizing a victory or a memory from his past. His eyes are sharp, scanning the horizon, always alert. Life as a Viking warrior demands such vigilance. Ragnar's journey began in the heart of the village, where he was raised alongside the other children. From an early age, he learned the values of survival, honor, and the importance of community. Like the others, he spent his early years in the fields and the forests, learning to hunt and forage. But the call to arms was strong, and as he grew older, Ragnar joined the ranks of the village's warriors. The village was a place where every man, woman, and child had a role. But for Ragnar, its path was set the moment he first picked up a spear. The training was grueling, often lasting long into the evening when the sun barely dipped below the horizon. He learned to fight, not just with strength, but with precision and strategy. His life became a preparation for raids and battles, each fight a step toward proving himself. The life of a Viking warrior was not one of leisure or peace. Ragnar's days were filled with the preparation of weapons, sharpening of axes, and constant vigilance. The rhythm of his life was dictated by the seasons. There were times to raid, times to rest, and times to recover. But even in the periods of rest, Ragnar's mind was always on his next battle, the next adventure that awaited him on the horizon. As the years passed, Ragnar's reputation grew. He fought alongside his fellow warriors on countless raids across distant lands, plundering villages, trading with foreign peoples, and establishing the Viking name across Europe. But with each victory came the weight of the responsibility to lead. Leadership in Viking society was not a position given, it was earned through action, bravery, and an unshakable commitment to one's people. Though the life of a warrior was one of excitement and danger, it was also fraught with loss. Ragnar witnessed the deaths of many of his comrades' men, who had stood beside him in battle, men who had shared in the toil and the triumphs of Viking life. Yet death was never something to be feared. In Viking culture, death in battle was an honor, a path to Valhalla, where the gods awaited those who had proven themselves worthy. On one fateful day, Ragnar stood at the head of his men, preparing for a raid along the coast of England. The air was thick with anticipation. The rhythmic sound of the oars dipping into the water was a familiar lullaby, the steady beat marking the pace of the journey. The sea stretched endlessly before them, a vast, uncharted expanse that was both a source of opportunity and danger. But as the shores of England drew nearer, Ragnar knew this raid would be different. The enemy was stronger, their defenses more formidable. The risk was higher, and the stakes even greater. Yet this was the life Ragnar had chosen. There was no turning back. As his long ship reached the shore, the sound of battle broke the silent shouts of warriors. The clash of weapons and the sharp scent of salt and blood filling the air. Ragnar fought with the precision and experience of a man who had known no other way of life. The battle was fierce and the cost high. Ragnar's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the danger that surrounded him. But he fought on, driven by the code of the warrior, the duty to protect his village, and the unyielding desire to survive. But as the dust settled and the battlefield grew quiet, the cost of victory was clear. Ragnar, though victorious, had lost many of his brothers in arms. The celebration of conquest was muted by the weight of the fallen. There would be no grand feasts tonight. The cost of survival was always high. As you imagine Ragnar in the quiet moments after the battle, you can almost feel the weight of his world. Life for a Viking warrior was never guaranteed. It was a life of constant struggle, of fighting not just for victory, but for survival itself. And yet, despite the challenges, there was a certain peace in knowing that each day spent in the village, each day spent training and fighting, brought with it a sense of purpose. Now let's turn our attention to something quieter, something that remains in the shadows of history, the intricate and often mysterious art of Viking craftsmanship. These were people who, despite their reputation for fierce warriors and seafaring exploits, were also exceptional artisans, creating items of remarkable beauty and functionality. These were not mere objects. They were pieces of a culture, rich with meaning, skill, and symbolism. Imagine yourself entering a small workshop within the village, a modest structure, filled with the scent of wood, leather, and iron. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting a warm, flickering glow over the room. Here, a craftsman works tirelessly, his hands skillful and steady. As he carves a piece of wood into the shape of a wolf, its teeth sharp and its eyes full of the wild spirit of the forest. The Vikings' craft was practical, yes, but it was also deeply symbolic. Each item crafted, whether a tool, a weapon, a piece of jewelry, was imbued with meaning. These artisans weren't simply producing functional objects. They were creating art that reflected the values, beliefs, and power of their people. Take the Viking longship, for example, a marvel of design that allowed them to conquer the seas. The intricate carvings on the prow of each ship were more than just decoration. They were symbols of protection and power. Often, these carvings depicted fierce animals, dragons, serpents, wolves, creatures that held significant meaning in Viking culture. These creatures were thought to offer protection during long voyages, their fierce presence guarding the warriors on their journey across the open sea. And then there was the artistry in Viking jewelry pieces that tell their own stories. Intricately designed brooches, rings, and necklaces were crafted not just for adornment, but to signify status, family lineage, and even personal identity. Some pieces were passed down through generations, becoming part of a family's legacy. The Vikings used these pieces to communicate, to show where they had come from and where they hoped to go. Gold and silver were often combined with gemstones to create stunning pieces that told stories of distant lands, of raids and battles, of love and loss. But the craftsmanship went beyond personal items. The weapons forged by Viking blacksmiths were works of art in their own right. Every axe, sword, and spear was made with the utmost care and precision, designed to withstand the toughest of battles. Yet these weapons were not just tools for war, they were also symbols of a warrior's identity. A warrior's axe, for instance, was often passed down from father to son, becoming a cherished family heirloom. Even the seemingly mundane objects, the tools of everyday life, were crafted with an attention to detail that reflected the Vikings' respect for the world around them. A simple wooden bowl, carved from the trunk of an oak tree, would be carefully smoothed and shaped until it was perfectly balanced in the hand. A pair of leather boots, stitched together with skill, would offer both protection and comfort against the harsh northern winters. Everything had its place, its purpose, its meaning. In fact, some of the most fascinating discoveries from Viking settlements are the remnants of everyday objects that have survived the centuries. Archaeologists have uncovered beautifully carved runestones, delicate metalwork, and intricate textiles, each piece offering a glimpse into the lives of people whose voices have long since faded. These artifacts tell the story of a culture that valued both strength and beauty, a culture that saw the creation of functional items as an act of reverence to the gods and to the earth. Among the most remarkable finds are the Viking burial ships, which have provided invaluable insights into Viking culture. These ships, often found in burial mounds, were not just vessels for the afterlife, they were sacred objects, designed to carry the deceased to the realm of the gods. The ships were often buried with the dead, accompanied by treasures, weapons, and personal items. These burials reflect the Vikings' belief in the afterlife, their deep connection to the sea, and their understanding of life as a cycle, one that began with birth and ended with a return to the earth. Yet, despite the wealth of material culture that has been uncovered, there remains so much about Viking craftsmanship that is still shrouded in mystery. For example, the exact methods they used to create their intricate patterns in metalwork, or the secret knowledge of the weaving techniques that produced their stunning textiles, are still unknown. Many of the skills and techniques used by Viking artisans were passed down orally, never written down, which makes it difficult for modern scholars to fully understand how these works of art were made. In the stillness of the Viking village, the craftsman's hands move with a quiet precision, carving and shaping the world around him. Each stroke, each twist of the leather or turn of the wood is an expression of his culture, an offering to the gods, and a reflection of the community he belongs to. There's no rush, no hurry. The work is steady, the pace slow and deliberate. And as the craftsman works, the world around him continues its rhythm, shaped by the same steady hand that forms the objects of his life. As we continue our journey through this Viking world, let us step away from the village and into the life of the nobility. Imagine yourself walking through a grand hall, the smell of roasting meat and the rich scent of leather and wood filling the air. This is a hall of great importance, where feasts are held, stories are told, and the elite of Viking society gather. The atmosphere is different, here less gritty, more refined, but still unmistakably shaped by the same harsh realities of the world outside. The walls of the hall are adorned with tapestries that depict scenes of battle and conquest, warriors with raised swords, dragons entwined in battle with knights. The floors are covered with rich furs from distant lands, and the long tables are laden with food. Roasted boar, loaves of dark bread, honey-sweetened mead, and the strong, earthy taste of fermented fish. The fire at the center of the room crackles softly, casting flickering shadows that dance across the faces of the men and women seated at the high table. At the head of the table sits the Jarl, the nobleman who leads this household. His presence is commanding, and his cloak, embroidered with gold thread, speaks of his wealth and status. His eyes are sharp, calculating, but there is a quiet authority in the way he observes the proceedings. The Jarl's role is not only to lead in battle, but to ensure the prosperity and survival of his people. He commands respect, not just because of his wealth or power, but because of the decisions he makes, the alliances he forges, and the loyalty he inspires. But as you take in the scene, you notice a contrast. The nobles in this hall, though they enjoy luxuries that those in the village could only dream of, still live with the constant awareness of the ever-present threats beyond their lands. Their wealth may afford them comfort, but it does not shield them from the dangers of Viking raids or the cold, unyielding winters that threaten to decimate their food supply. Their lives are governed by different rules, but they are still shaped by the same harsh realities. To the sides of the hall, the less privileged of Viking society, those who serve the Jarl. And his guests move quietly, filling cups, delivering plates, and ensuring that the feast runs smoothly. These servants are not part of the elite, but their role is essential to the function of this society. Their lives are simpler, often defined by servitude and hard work, but they too have their own sense of purpose. They work hard, but they are not without honor. For in the Viking world, honor is not reserved for the nobility alone, it is a value shared by all. Beyond the hall and the fields and forests, the contrast is even starker. The peasants and farmers who work the land live a life far removed from the luxury and indulgence enjoyed by the nobility. Their homes are humble, their meals modest, and their work endless. For them, the day begins before the sun rises and ends long after it sets. They rise to tend to the crops, feed the animals, and prepare for the coming winter. The weight of survival is heavy upon them, but they know nothing else. Their lives are woven into the fabric of the land, their days shaped by the rhythm of the seasons, by the cycles of planting and harvest, of waiting and working. And yet, despite these differences, there is an underlying similarity that unites the village and the noble halls, a shared dependence on the land, on the seasons, and on each other. The Jarl may sit at the head of a great feast, but it is the labor of the peasants, the farmers, the craftsmen that keeps the village alive. The bonds that tie them together are invisible but strong, woven into the very fabric of their society. In the nobility's world, there are no idle moments. Even in the comforts of the hall, there are strategies to be planned, alliances to be made, and enemies to consider. The elite do not live without worry, though their worries are different from those of the villagers. They are consumed by the politics of power, the intricacies of governance, and the constant need to maintain their status. They live in constant motion, always aware of the need to maintain their position, to secure their future, and to ensure that their bloodline remains in power. But even in their luxurious halls, there is a certain unease. The Vikings may have conquered vast lands, but they are still vulnerable. The cold northern winds, the scarcity of food during the long winters, and the ever-present threat of raids loom large. Even the most powerful of Viking families cannot escape these fears. In fact, It is perhaps because of these constant threats that the nobility's lives are so carefully constructed, so meticulously planned. Everything, from the weapons they wield to the alliances they form, is designed for survival. As the evening draws to a close, the sounds of laughter and conversation begin to fade, and the fire in the hearth flickers lower. The Jarl's guests rise, their bellies full, their minds slightly clouded with mead. They prepare to retire for the night, leaving the hall to the servants and the quiet echoes of the past. The village outside remains awake, the pulse of life still steady in the cold night air. Conclusion. As we close this journey into the Viking world, we reflect on the stark contrasts between the daily lives of the villagers, the warriors, the craftsmen, and the nobility. Despite the vast differences in status and privilege, each person in the Viking society played a vital role in the survival of their community. Whether working the land, forging weapons, or leading their people in battle, they were united by a common purpose: survival in a world shaped by harsh elements and constant challenges. Today, as you settle into the comfort of your own life, you can reflect on the rhythms of the past and how far we've come. The struggle for survival may look different now, but the same principles of resilience, community, and purpose still guide us. In the Viking world, as in our own, it is the quiet, steady work of everyday life that holds everything together. Let your mind gently drift now as the Vikings once did under the soft northern skies, where the stars glimmered above and the world turned slowly with the seasons. Good night.